Hello everybody, what's up and welcome to my channel. I have not done a story time in a hot minute. As the month of October obviously approached this year, I went shopping to buy some stuff, and it reminded me of the times that I worked in retail. It's gotten to the point where honestly, ever since I left the retail industry, I never really go shopping, and when I do shop, I only buy things that I need. I'm here to make this story time telling you about my bad experiences working in retail. If you love story time content as well as makeup content, because I also do project painting, please subscribe and let's get on with this video. Alrighty, so oh my god, my makeup looks kind of weird today. Anyways, I made a whole list of things that I wanted to talk about. So I worked in retail from the age of 16 all the way up to, I believe I was 20 or 21. Also, I'm not gonna say the stores that I worked at because it's not relevant. But with that being said, let's start with stealing, because that is the one thing that people did quite a bit. So at the store that I worked at, every once in a while we would have this 10 off of 10 coupon. So if you found something for $10, you can get a $10 off. Essentially, you can get it for free. So there were these two customers in particular, and I worked in the children's section of this particular store. Every once in a while I would work in women's or men's, but for the most part I was in the children's section. And these two women would come in. They would shop at the women's section, but they would check out at the children's section. They would go to the clearance and they would pick clothing that was $5 or $6, and we would also have things that were as cheap as $2.97. So they would take those stickers, peel them, because they were clearance stickers, peel them and then put them on the clothing. And obviously when I rung it up, it didn't come up that price, and they're like, well, the sticker says this. So sometimes I would have to manually go in and change it, but it got to the point where our store, every time we had to manually change something, a manager would have to punch in their numbers because that was happening so often. And so with these women, they would have a bunch of stuff that were $2.97 or even as cheap as $1. Before anyone questions anything, we rarely had things for $2 or $1. It had to be something that was super out of season. And so for example, a bikini in December, if you were buying it in December, then obviously some things would be $5, some things would be $2, but we didn't have too many things that were that cheap. But these women would find those stickers again and put them on their stuff. And then one day I found out that they were actually twins. It was two people that was doing this. So they would grab clothing, change the stickers, and then come with their 10 off 10 coupon. And I checked one out twice, and then I'm like, why does she have two? Because they came in as twins. And then I don't remember, but I believe they were arrested or something. We had a lot of arrests happen at our store. There was one time where I worked in the women's section. It was dead silent. It was so quiet. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I see somebody run, and they run so fast, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I see a cop follow them, and I'm just like, okay, they stole something, they're probably going to jail. And so another instance of that, like I said, I worked in the children's department, so a lot of times I would have mothers who would come in, and unfortunately they couldn't afford a lot of stuff, so we had these carts. This person filled their cart up with baby clothes, and they went up the elevator. And so obviously if they go in the elevator, they can grab stuff and put it in their pockets. We had our LP person, our loss prevention person, tell this person hey, if you leave the store, you will get arrested. So this woman never left, but she still ended up getting arrested. It will be very frustrating whenever they would have to steal something, because there were times where we would have to stop them, but we also had to be careful in case these people had weapons or something. Sometimes when they would steal things, they would grab a whole bunch of stuff, and just run, and like they would make such a huge mess that we would have to clean up. And on top of that, our inventory would be like messed up. Like there would be customers like, hey, it shows that you have 5 of these hoodies in your store. They would like drive all the way to our store, and we're like, I'm sorry, like we wouldn't say it was stolen, but we would be like, the system is delayed by a couple hours, and like that would be so frustrating. But sometimes I would tell the customer like it was probably stolen. Speaking of that, oh my god, there was this one lady, we called her like the shoe lady, and I don't remember why. I think she would buy a lot of kids' shoes. She had 5 children, or 6. She had 5 or 6 children, and I think she was like, I know she was foreign. I think she was like Eastern European or something. I have like a soft spot for people that are like foreign, especially if they don't speak English very well, so I always try to help them out and whatnot. And I noticed that a lot of people would avoid this woman. She knew all of the managers by name, and I thought that was really weird. And she'll be like, call Sarah, call Henry, and like all these names, and I'm like, how does she know all of these people? When I first started there, a lot of like associates would like ignore her, and so I just like I felt bad. I'm like, oh, let me help her out, until I noticed why they would ignore her. She was insane. Literally, she would like try to buy something and then be like, oh, I had rewards, I didn't use my rewards, and then we would have to give her the 1-800 number for the rewards because it shows that she used it. And like she would try to do every single thing to like get money back or get something lower. And I remember this one time I like walked up to the register, and it was funny because it was like as if the Jaws music was playing in the background. I go up to her, I see a huge black trash bag because she kept her clothes in that, and like she would open it and then she would have a whole bunch of things that she wanted to return. She returned something, she wanted the rewards that she used to be reimbursed back to her, and like that's not how our reward system works. So like once you use a reward, you don't get it back unless if you like maybe exchange it, which I don't think the store does that anymore. To top it all off, her 5 children would run around and mess everything up. They would like mess up clothes. We had teddy bears and toys. All of that would be on the floor. And it got to the point where literally her children would take toys and put them in their pockets. And like whenever we would try to say something, she'll be like, don't say anything to my children. And I'm just like, ma'am, like, how are you raising these kids? Like, just help them. You know, she was just absolutely crazy, and she would constantly talk about how she used to be manager at Walmart and we don't have good customer service, and she would always call corporate like all the time. And so with me, I obviously did not want to end up on her bad side. I'll be like, well, you know, I tried helping you. I can't do anything, you know, like my managers can't do anything. And so I would like try to talk to her that way, and then she'd be like, okay, that's fine. I would like try to calm her down. And every time she came to the store, associates would literally hide. They did not want to deal with her. And I think somebody told me that she got kicked out of Walmart once. Her children would always make a mess. So one time I went up to her kids, I'm like, hey guys, let's play a game. Let's see who can pick up the most toys off the ground. And it's like it got to the point where literally I would clean all day. They would make a huge mess. The worst part is she would always come like right when we were closing. And so my managers had this like policy where they would make us stay till most of the floor looks clean. Everything that I cleaned is now on the floor, and I have to clean it all back up, and if I don't get to leave. And so yeah, that was ridiculous. But like whenever my managers would see her, they would understand the situation and they would help me clean, which was nice. But for the most part, yeah, this one was absolutely crazy. So besides her, I had a bunch of other customers that would be like so frustrating. I had this one customer tell me to go back to my own country because I served a black person before her and she was white. She had a problem with it. I had customers that would literally yell at me, and that actually reminds me, I had this one customer who came with her children. They applied for a credit card, and if you apply for a credit card and you get approved, the approval part is important, you get an additional 15% off. But this woman was not approved right away, and her daughter literally looked at me and was like,
the lady upstairs said we can have 15% off.
and I literally, y'all, Like, I knew the credit card policy, like, I work here. And I literally was about to be like,
oh, well, the lady upstairs is gonna get fired because she gave you the wrong information.
Like, literally, sometimes customers will get so sassy, and like with me, it would always be the children. And speaking of that, there would be women who would have children with backpacks. They would steal stuff and put it in their kid's backpack. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to question your parenting, but like, seriously, for the most part, I would always have customers, like, especially during holiday times, like October, November, December, that would literally like just yell at me because a coupon that expired 5 days ago, I can't give it to them. And it got so bad. This one time, I literally like was about to cry. Like, I saw my manager, I like stared at her. And then she like was trying to go into the break room, and then she ended up like turning around and came up to me. I was like, can you please help this lady? Because like there were times where our managers would be so busy, especially during this season, and I could not like call on anyone because they'll be like, oh, well, if you need something, like, call on us if it's urgent. So a lot of times I would have to deal with these people because the managers were busy dealing with other customers. And so that was kind of the another frustrating part of it. Like, people would literally talk to me as if I'm dumb, as if I don't know anything, especially like the area that I lived in was a majority white people. So like, they would ask me questions like where I'm from, why do I cover, and like the way they would talk to me as if I'm from like another planet. And so every time I would say, oh, I was raised in the States, they'll be like, oh, okay. Like, it was just so bad. So another thing I wanted to talk about was return policies. So our store had a very generous return policy. If you had a receipt, you can return it. This store doesn't do this policy anymore. I believe you have 60 days and you need to turn it in with a receipt. But like, I had this one associate who would try to return things from 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, this has been used. And like, the store at the time didn't care too much. And so that was like really frustrating because I'm like, I don't mind returning this. It's just putting it back into the system I did not know how to do. So I had to find something that was similar and make up like new numbers and new tags for it. And like, the worst part is if it's something from years ago, it's clearly like not in style anymore. And it's not like trendy anymore. So people like look at the item, they're like, what is this doing here? This doesn't go on par with everything else. I mean, I would take advantage of that as well if the clothing that I purchased years ago has not been worn or anything like that. And the return policy got so out of hand that not only did we implement a new thing where it had to be returned within 60 days, but we also implemented this thing where if you return an item without a receipt or any proof of purchase, you will not get it back for full price. You will get it back for the lowest marketed price. People try to return things with no receipt, and instead of getting $40 back, they would get like 26 or like something lower. So there's this one lady that came in and I'm like, do you have the receipt? Do you have your rewards number so I can look it up? And she kept saying, no, I don't have any receipt. And so I scanned it, and then she's like, hold up, that is not $17. I paid way more than $17. And I was like, well, if you don't have the receipt, the only thing you get back is the lowest marketed price. And then she goes, oh wait, I have the receipt right here. This woman literally told me I don't have the receipt a whole bunch of times, and then right when I mentioned that, all of a sudden magically she has a receipt. And that was just like really weird because our store had a lot of sales. So like, either way, no one paid like full price for anything because we always had sales and we always had coupons. People would buy things on clearance and they would take the sticker off and return it and get like full price back. And it's like, that is why my store implemented that, but that is the one thing that happened. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the actual store itself. I had racist coworkers. There was this one coworker who would literally say the N-word, and the other managers thought it was funny, and like, they wouldn't fire her or anything. And like, she always would say things to me. She'd be like, look at those Mexicans that came in here. Again, she wouldn't get reported at all. And so when she would get reported, the managers would ignore it because, you know, she's funny and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it was a bit ridiculous because like she would constantly talk to like people of color, associates of color, including like Black people and some of the Hispanic people as well as us. And like she would talk shit to us about those other races. And so that is one thing that I was definitely not okay with. The second thing was the credit cards. There were times where people would literally get 35 to 40 to even 50% off for opening a credit card. And if the store wants to make more money that way, that's fine. I think that's great. And I had a lot of customers that would take advantage of that. I personally would open so many credit cards because I was good with opening credit cards. It would become such a huge competition as to who has the most credit card applications. It got to the point where literally I had this one coworker. I take that back. I had several coworkers who would literally hog the register. Like the register would be here, they have their hands around the register. Even on days when we were not busy, they would just stand by the register like, oh, a customer's gonna come. There was clothing around you, at least fold something while you're at it. And I'm mentioning this because these coworkers, they were older and they would constantly talk about how us young people never did anything when the younger people constantly like cleaned the entire store. We would pick clothes up, we would fold everything, we would put everything back. And the older people who would hog the register wouldn't even fold the clothing that was around them. If you fold clothing around the register, the customer can still see you and you can still check them out. It's not a big deal. But like that's how it gotten to the point where literally they would not do anything about that. Meanwhile, when younger people who have more than one job and they're going to college full-time, if they decide to take a mental health day and be like, I can't work today because I have school, I have this, they had a problem with it. But when the boomers would do so much thing, they'll be like, oh, well, they give us a lot of credit cards. Yeah, because they would hog the register the entire time. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was in regards to the credit cards. So my store decided to, one of my managers, a couple of them decided to have us open credit cards for customers without an ID. Like, in order to open a credit card, you need your social security number and your ID. You can do it online, but like in person, you need to see their ID. Cause like, you never know, they're probably giving you somebody else's information, somebody else's social security, especially with like husbands. They would open credit cards under their wife's name and social, which is not okay because it can mess up their credit score if they don't know about it. And like, they would like pressure us to like open credit cards for like teenagers, like fresh 18-year-olds. A lot of times they wouldn't even get approved, so their credit score is already ruined. And like 18-year-olds, a lot of them are not that responsible to know how big of a deal it is to have a credit card. I mean, nowadays I guess they do because you have the internet, you can learn so much, but back then at the time there wasn't a lot of financial literacy on the internet as much as I see now. So with this credit card incident, yeah, they wanted us to open credit cards with people without IDs, which is illegal. And I went up to a manager and I literally told her, I was like, this is illegal. You can get in a lot of trouble for this. And she was just like, oh, well, you know, it's a preference. And I'm just like, that is dangerous because as a store, it would hold you liable for not checking their ID, which is something you're supposed to be doing. Because like with an ID, at least they can say, hey, this is not the same person, you know? Like if somebody took my information and opened up a whole bunch of credit cards and ruined my credit score and everything, I would be very upset about that. Because like, what if I want to buy a house? And either way, one of the most important things when you're getting a credit card or anything of that sort is verification. If you can't verify the person, like how on earth are you going to open a credit card legally? Anyways, I complained to corporate because it was time for like annual reviews and you can put surveys of what you want your store to help with, and I told them that incident. And lo and behold, after I come back from my study abroad trip, the policies have changed. Nobody went to jail, which I was not expecting anyone to necessarily go to jail, but like I'm glad the policy changed because stuff like that is quite dangerous. And on top of everything, like they would make people like do fitting rooms all day with like 5 racks of clothes, and you have to take all those clothes and put them back, and nobody else helps you. So yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.